First off, this has been a very interesting debate today, and I first want to thank the gentleman from Jefferson 29. I do believe that he deeply cares about this issue, and I do believe that he wants to do the right thing for his constituents, for the youth, and for the folks in Jefferson County. And before I go further, I want to say that in committee, I guess it was 2 weeks ago when we voted on this bill, I said openly in committee that I wanted to be a yes vote. I wanted to be able to vote yes on House Bill 3. And I said that I was willing to work with the sponsors to get to a point to where I was 70 or 75% to be able to agree upon the bill. It's very disappointing to me that the communication has not been as good as I would like. I did propose some language to be put in the bill. That language did not get put in, and actually was going to do a floor amendment today, but we've seen the 3 floor amendments have been voted no. So that has been disappointing. I went to church on Sunday. I went to a church that I'd never been to before, and I had 3 different people come up to me and say, "Aren't you the person who's advocating to bring our youth back home?" And I said, "Yes, that's me. I'm Representative Herron." And had further conversations. And so the folks in Jefferson County, specifically in District 42, we want our kids back in Jefferson County. I think that we can all agree on that. However, I think that the way that we're doing it is irresponsible. I think that when we look at the facility of Jefferson, the old detention center, I'm not sure how many people have toured it. I would recommend my colleagues from Jefferson to tour it. Also, make sure you ask them to take you to the walk where kids actually go to court. Take that walk. My issue is that this bill ends up putting, $39 million into pretty much incarcerating our young people. I am happy about the changes that's made to the mental health provisions, but it's not enough. We cannot spend $39 million on incarcerating kids and not spend a penny on reentry, on intervention, on prevention, and on alternatives to detention. And for the gentleman in Jessamine, I just want you to know, when you talk about the victims, I'm getting phone calls from victims. I'm getting phone calls from perpetrators' families. When there is a shooting in Jefferson County, I get phone calls from both. I'm consoling both families. The one thing that families have told me, whether it was their child who was a perpetrator or the victim of a fatal or non-fatal, is they say, we do not want any other family to deal with the pain that we're dealing with. And in order for us to make sure that families across Jefferson County and across Kentucky are not dealing with this, we have to put money on all of it. We can't just do one, and this bill just does one. Last week, I contacted the chief of LMPD, and I asked her about some numbers. The violence is real in Louisville, and I just want to share these statistics and these numbers with you all. From 2020 until last week on February 22nd, there were 39 young people under the age of 18 charged with murder in Jefferson County. The same time, 2020 through February 22nd, there were 49 fatal gunshot wounds of young people under the age of 18. The same time, 2020 through February 22nd of this year, there was 254 non-fatal gunshot wound victims of young people under the age of 18. Those folks are in community. Those folks have the potential to be the next perpetrator. Those folks have the potential to be the next victim. Not only does that impact the 254, but it impacts their families, it impacts the kids that they go to school with, it impacts their neighbors. So for me, it's just very hard to say, okay, we're going to spend $39 million. We're just going to cut the check and spend $39 million on incarcerating young people and not put any money into reentry, prevention, intervention, and alternatives. I hope that in 2 years or 3 years that I can stand on the floor and say I was wrong, that House Bill 3 was a right bill that we did. I will be the first one to stand here, but I do think that the passage of this piece of legislation, without being intentional about the other things, I think that there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences. When you look at the current state of DJJ right now, of being understaffed, I visited the facility in Adair County. The day I went, there were 5 staff working. 1 was in the control room. So there's no movement in that facility. They say kids are coming out, there's no movement. If there is movement, it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes at a time. Our state DJJ system is broken. It's been broken. It's been broken for years. I know that we have to get our kids back to Jefferson County, but this bill is not going to fix just that issue in Jefferson County. It's actually going to exacerbate what we're seeing across the Commonwealth. And the last thing that I want to say is over the last couple of weeks, I've had an opportunity to talk to some young people who have been justice involved, whether they are at the alternative school or whether they're in community. And one of the young people, and this is before we made additions to the bill, he said, "You mean you're telling me that we're going to spend $8 million on some beds?" I said, "What do you mean?" He was like, "We're spending $8 million on beds. We're spending $8 million on beds for kids to sleep in." I said, "Yes, that's what they're proposing." The other thing I just want this body to know and understand is, yes, there have been some kids who have committed some very serious offenses, but most of those young people, they're coming back into our community. And it's up to us to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to embrace those kids and make sure that they have the things that they need in order for them not to reoffend, also in order for them to have the things that they need. Again, to the gentleman from Jefferson 29, I appreciate your hard work on this bill. I do hope that I can continue to work with my colleagues on making sure that we're really taking care of our youth who are justice involved. And with that, I'll yield.